What it is, y'all, today is a huge day for a lot of people that, well, missed out on one of the most important units in the game. Of course, I'm talking about Haruhime. There's really no question that you kind of need this unit, honestly. I'm going to be honest, Soma, not so much. Even that Hestia, I have that Hestia Max Limit broken. I never use her. She's got an interesting... she's got an interesting build, but honestly, I really just don't think she does what she was intended to do. We can talk about that in another video that's really more related to 7th Zone, but when it comes to Haruhime, like, you basically need this unit. Now, I told you guys earlier in the week, we're going to get the freebie on this one. Let's do our freebie right now, and if you haven't done this, you want to pause the video and do this along with me just for some good luck. Good luck to you. I frankly hope... Yeah, see, I was going to say, I would take the gold door and get absolutely nothing so that maybe somebody watching this video can pull Haruhime today if you don't have her. That would be a huge asset to your teams. And I'll go into why I say that here in just a moment, but let's see what we pull here. Thus far, nothing. Not really concerned about that. And again, it's going to be one of those 3 units, and if it is a 4-star at all, and I'll be honest, like, Soma's the only one I would even need. And at that rate, like, I never use him. So, there we go. Nothing. That's frankly okay. Now, we talked about this earlier in the week when we talked about the Before You Summon video. Well, these units are pretty good. They're really... Osfi's kind of a rehash of unit we got during the anniversary that we actually don't use that much anymore. They might have some interesting mechanics coming up, but yeah. Lune is really interesting in the sense of she'll be used, like, very rarely. So I think she's worth collecting for at least the CP rewards, but past that, meh. Of course, we got the reruns here. I did talk about how I think Line is... Do not do that. Line is well worth for the sack. Just if you can get one of her, great. That would be awesome. But really, if there's a banner to chase at the moment, and all those units are in the general pool, and... Well, we talked about that in their own video. If there is a banner to chase at the moment, it is this banner. If you do not have the Foxy Princess Haruhime, you need this unit absolutely desperately. I would even say it is okay to jeopardize some of your 3rd season Iris, because if you don't know, we're going to probably get banners every single week during the run of the actual anime. So, like, for basically the next 13 weeks or so, we're going to be getting new units, new banners every single week. That's a lot of Iris. I'm not going to lie. That is a ton of Iris. Worth mentioning right now as well, there is an Iris sale on. Fortunately, I already bought mine. But every single day, there's 100 Iris up for grabs if you want to whale. It's a great time to do it. 100 Iris for $4 is a pretty I won't say significant value, but it's a good value. So, 100 Iris, $4, I'd say that's worth. Go do that. But more than anything else, let's talk about Haruhime very specifically. If you're not familiar with this unit and why I say she is so unbelievably important to teams currently, well, let's go ahead and get you familiar, all right? First things first, it should be if you watched any videos that I've made in the past year, you know I've always used Haru. She is just so absolutely necessary. Now, I'll also say this, if you've got a ton of Prism Bonds, and by that I mean if you go here into the shop, the Special Exchange, and you go to the Hero Medal and Flame Amulet stage, if you've got enough Hero Medals, Hero Medals, you can actually get Prism Bonds, which would be a free bond for Haruhime, and that'd be totally worth. That would save you a ton of Iris, you wouldn't have to blow on that banner. So, I've only got 1 Hero Medal, 1 Flame Amulet for that matter. I have 2 more I could farm up real quickly, so if I need a Bonds, I could go get Bonds. It's really not that big a deal. Now, do you need Haruhime Max Limit broken? No. Would she help? Absolutely. You want to max Limit break her as early as humanly possible, but if you're just crazy free to play, you refuse to spend any money, you're casual and you're not going to like farm a crazy amount of Iris between now and when the banners start dropping for the new units next week. That's not confirmed, by the way. That is just speculation, but I'm willing to bet. I mean, there's a live stream already planned for Tuesday. So I would say expect a big announcement of a new banner, and probably including that new, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but including the new unit that a lot of us know about and are kind of expecting. But once again, I'm not going to spoil anything for the anime. Neither here nor there. These units are... Haruhime is 100% necessary. So you can get her and you can unlock her there. In fact, if you haven't done it yet, if you go into the guild and you go to the adventurer levels, I believe... I don't remember which ones, but I believe Boss 2, I think? Boss 2 or Boss 3, I don't remember which one. One of those gives you a Prism Bond as well that you can then use to unlock more Haruhime. So there's ways to get Prism Bonds. And we did a ton, and I mean a ton, of summons during the anniversary. If you haven't done any of your Sirius or dupe sales, you can go in here and you can sell 100 Sirius, or 100 Dolb, will actually be, which is 10 4-star units. If you've got, let's say for the sake of argument, a bunch of really old 4-stars that just are not going to be any good, don't be afraid to sell those and get an extra Prism Bond. Case in point, things like, let's go ahead and go into the album and talk about that. Let's first look at the old bells. I'm going to filter this down by 4 stars. And first things first, the Sargonaut Bell. Great looking unit, awesome looking unit. But even if we max ascend him, look at that strength stat and magic stat. Just atrocious. Just really, really, really old. HP is just a hair over 3,500. We're really now encroaching on the 4K, 4K era of HP, so just not a good unit. Foe's ultra physical attack for his SA, no percentage boosts, no debuffs, no buffs. Yeah, units like that you could sell. If you get on here and like the heroic eyes here, let's go ahead and pull that up. Any of these really old units you could probably sell free and clear without having to worry about it. A double S strength stat is pretty good, but 1,500? Just everything modern uses is like 2,000 strength stat. Her HP is pretty decent, I'll grant her that. But let's once again look in here. Ultra Wind magic attack, index to strength. That's really old. Literally, it's a magic attack, but it goes off your strength stat. It's really not impressive. So when you go into the album, like, see, here's the most recent eyes we got. So we could say this Leafia right here on the end, and I've got a ton of this Leafia. Incarnation Leafia, if we up her, she's going to be the first Leafia that was dropped in the game as a 4-star. Magic stat is just over 1,500. HP isn't even 3,000. Even if you try to use her, even if you max ascend her and try to use her in an event, she's going to squish like you've never seen before. Ultra Water Magic Attack. That's all her SA is. No percentage boost, no buffs, no debuffs, nothing special. Compare that to the most recent, and probably one of the most insane Leafias we got, which is the Arcanic Cascade Leafia. I think this Leafia needs no introduction. Alright? 3,500 HP, way more HP, and that's even a little squishy by the terms of any modern unit. Magic is a triple S stat, 1,900, and with a little bit of CP, she could break 2,000. MP is over 400, and if we go and look at what her SA is, look at how, like, even it's like a paragraph compared to like 3 or 4 words. Ultra Water Magic Attack, damage 70% per each self magic buff. So when you see something like that, understand that's going to add 70% per assist buff, per unit buff. In other words, she gives herself 60%, we'll see it's per magic. Yeah, she gives herself 60% magic. If she gets 20% magic from the assist side, that's then going to be 140%. Plus 60%, that's 200. That's 220% magic buff just based on that. And then on top of it, if this would cooperate, self magic buff and water resist minus 50%. So she got a debuff on top of that. So if you really want to compare units, look at some of these, look at some of those really old units. Once again, we'll go back in here and I'll just max them a breaker so you see. Look at, it's just nothing in comparison. And her stats, even fully maxed them broken, fully ascended, they're just nothing. They're nothing. So do bear a lot of these things in mind when you're thinking about selling a unit, when you need bonds for somebody. So let's go back over here to Haruhime and talk about her, okay? Now, this is the first Haruhime in the game, so don't be tripped up by that. The first Haruhime is still the absolute best Haruhime, wherever she went at. You know, I'm going to do this the old-fashioned, or do this the new way. Go up here, bam, bam. Now, we've only got 4 Haruhimes in the game. The old one is only a year old versus, like, that Leafia that's now 3 years old. So, let's talk about what she does. First things first, let's go ahead and fully max her and fully ascend her, okay? Now, this isn't the end of the world, what you see here, but you can already start to see she not only has the magic stat like Leafia had, she's also got a really high strength stat. And she's got decent MP, not the end of the world stuff. She's got good defense. HP leaves a little bit to be desired. I'm not going to lie about that. I will not deny that one bit. But then let's go into her skills. And let me just preface this by saying, when this unit dropped in the game last year, if you weren't playing at that time, you don't know, but she changed the entire landscape of the game overnight with what she did. Absolutely insane unit. All right? So let's talk about her first skill. Her first skill is a foes, plural, fast mid-fire magic attack with strength and magic minus 40% for 3 turns. Sorry, my HDMI is acting up real weird today. I don't know what's going on. Hasn't done this in a long time. So it's a 40% strength and magic debuff. And I believe at that point in the game, we had a couple strength and magic debuffs, but they were all like max 20%. And I think even after she released, most of them maxed out like 30%. It was only recently we got one unit that actually has outdone her, and that unit is a single target. So she's an AoE, strength and magic, 40% debuffer. And I think even at the time we got her, I think the best debuff we had prior to her was either a strength or magic 30%. So immediately with that first skill, completely everything's changed. Absolutely everything's changed. That debuff was so, and it still is, incredibly critical to survival in so many events. If you're doing Record Buster right now, and you're just distraught because you're getting destroyed left, right, and center, well, you probably need to be using the new Otaro because he's single target. But very good, second best. And that unit only dropped, what, like a month ago. So, that gives you an idea. It took them a year to even catch up. And the fact that she's AoE means every single AoE 7th zone, you're going to use her. In the current Familia Rush, you're going to use her. In any kind of, like when we did the EX boss battles and all that stuff, you're going to use her. 100%, you're going to use that most of the time. Not all the time, but I'd even say literally 90% of the time, you're going to use that debuff skill. It is going to be so absolutely important. That's just skill 1, okay? Now, I'm going to go to skill 3, because a lot of times we don't use skill 2, but in like the middle of a fight. You generally go skill 1, skill 3. After a few skill 3s, you do 2. And I'll explain why. Skill 3 is an all allies 30% HP heal. It's not end of the world stuff. That's a very, very, very good heal. Allies, status buff and foes status debuff plus 2 turns. Now, this is the first time we've had a unit that did either one of those 2 turns. No, I take it back. I think maybe 1 or 2 units had, like, individually, like, a status buff plus 2 turns, but I think it was Self. I don't think there was anybody that did an ally status buff plus 2 turns at the time, let alone, or foes status debuff plus 2 turns, let alone both of these simultaneously. And if you're not familiar with how this works as a mechanic, because we do have a lot of new people in the game, and those are most of the people I'm talking to in this video anyway. Basically, when you use skill 3, all of your units get a heal. Just every unit on your team gets a blanket 30% heal right out of the gate. Okay? Then all of your units, if they like do a skill that gives them, I don't know, let's say plus magic 60% for 3 turns, they're on turn, 4 or turn 2, right? So they've got basically this turn and then one more turn that's going to wear out. They're not going to have 3 more turns till it wears out. Do that in a row several times over, and you can get up to this situation where you have 14, 15, 16, 17 turns before something wears out. Yes, if you're not familiar, once again, you don't have her, you haven't used her, she can be ridiculous. Same thing with debuffs. So if you think about her debuff, her 40% debuff, that is, I believe, for 2 turns? 3 turns. 3 turns. No. Yeah, 3 turns. So she applies that debuff Turn 2, she's down to 2 turns. Turn 3, it's down to 1 turn. So we do it turn 1, we come into turn 2, we do this. Now, instead of being 2 turns at the end of turn 2, it's 4 turns. At the end of turn 3, it's 6 turns. So on and so forth. Or actually, I take it back, it's 5 turns, not 6 turns. Then it becomes 7 turns. So it becomes, 9 turns. And so on and so forth. You basically are just going to build and stack and build and stack and build and stack until it just becomes this cumbersome, insane number that really are nigh impossible. And the real fun part about this is if you have units now that remove status debuffs or status buffs plus 2 turns. We don't have anybody that does status buffs minus 2 turns, status debuffs or status buffs minus 2 turns, status debuff minus 2 turns, status buff plus 2 turns. We don't have anybody that will actually do both of those stats. So you really kind of gotta, you put Haruhime in a team, and even if they're removing those buffs for 2 turns, everything still stays stagnant. Now, that doesn't sound incredibly good, but it's better than nothing at all. And at the same rate, most of the time, if you're using Haruhime right, those people are going to run out of that skill. That skill's very expensive. So when we're talking about this, we're really specifically talking about a unit that now has a huge debuff, can replicate that debuff, and can replicate any other buff that our units have put on. So that becomes very, very, very critical. But not only that, she also has an HP heal on top of that. So really, she's gone 2 turns and done 3 things. But wait, that might not be all. Because if we go down here, let's see, encouragement. When countering instead of attacking regularly, it low heals an ally. So if she gets a counter, which we'll get to in a moment, if she gets a counter, she's now healing again. Now, it is a low heal, technically, but I've seen this completely heal up an ally in one shot. In one shot. Just completely heal up. In fact, I don't have the percentage on it, but I want to say this is the highest percentage of heal that anybody's got. I really don't think that's a low heal. I think it's either a mid or a high heal. Really, it's just called a low heal here. Because Priestess, who else has this? I don't remember. There's several other units. In fact, we got a few new units. The new Seer, I believe, has this. Every unit that has this doesn't do but a percentage of the amount of heal that Haruhime does. So do bear that in mind. It's very worth your consideration. She's actually going to be healing left, right, and center, especially when you consider, if we go down here, Sheikah, skill 2. We've talked about this a lot, especially in Record Buster. Sheikah is in a self. Now, not all allies. A self 15% MP heal. Now, if you want to know how good that is enough to basically do skill 2, skill 3, skill 2, skill 3, skill 2, skill 3, skill 2, skill 3. Once she's max limit broken. If she's below MLB, she's not going to do that. But once she's max limit broken, you can do this and then do this. This. And with this being +2, you're basically never going to run out of whatever buffs these are. Now, that's now just one thing that she does. So, the other thing she does here is she increases counter rate and penetration rate, both 30%. Remember how I said when she counters, she heals. She will increase her own counter rate and the counter rate of all your other allies. If you have other allies that actually do a counter heal, she increases that on them too. So when people talk about stall teams in Wargame, there was an old metric where you'd use this Haruhime and the Winter Haruhime or some other units that do crazy amounts of heals, because the Winter Haruhime also does a counter heal just like this unit. Or Priestess, or the new Shakti, or I believe it's Seer that we just got that does that. They would use some units like that would just do insane amounts of healing. But if she increases that counter rate, the odds of them getting that heal are even better. Even better. And it's not like all allies get the counter rate, and all allies get a penetration rate. Well, that penetration rate isn't going to help her. Penetration helps you get more damage out. So, and bear in mind, that doesn't just increase the dex or endurance stat. I believe penetration really has more to do with dex. It doesn't really increase your dex stat. This actually is penetration by itself. So if you have another dex buff, this penetration rate Basically, it'll roll for dex, then it'll roll for this extra penetration rate. So it's like having more of that in one. If you've ever talked about how buff stacks work, you can buff the dex stat and then buff the penetration rate stat. So it's just like guaranteeing at that point you're going to penetrate. So you're healing the MP in order to do more HP heals and more buff debuff. You're countering so you can do more heals and keep more units alive. And you're increasing penetration, so all those units you're keeping alive are now doing way more damage. So let's count in 3 skills, 3 small skills, exactly what Haruhime does. Okay? So, it's a fire magic attack. I forgot to mention that before. It is a fire magic attack, so it actually will do damage. It is a strength debuff. It is a magic debuff. Both those are 40%. At the time, that was fairly unprecedented. And that's to all foes. All foes. That's 3 things, skill 1, that she does. Okay? Skill 2, she does a heal. She does allies buff. She does foes debuff. Now that is 6 things in 2 skills. Because I'm going to split hairs a little bit. Now I'm going to count sheerly the number of things she just does with all of this. Now bear in mind, that's 2 turns. She could get 4, 5, 6, 7... Who knows? Depending on how many foes you're fighting and how hard they hit, she can get a ton of other heals in there. So we're talking, just saying these 6 things doesn't include all the heals she's probably getting from her counter rate. Now, if you go down here, you do Sheikah turn 3 and increase the penetration rate. That's usually the way I like to do it. I like to do 1, 3, 2, so that when we sack units, like we talked about Line earlier, we'll do like Line and then we'll do a debuffer, and then we'll have our mainline team up, and then we do the penetration rate and counter rate and buff at that point. So 1, 3, 2. So now we did 6 things already, not including the counters. Now we're going to do an MP heal on Haruhime. We're going to do a counter rate buff on all allies, and we're going to do a penetration buff on all allies. That is 9 things, guys. 9 things in 3 turns. Each turn technically does basically 3 different things. So when we say she's really, really, really good, she's really, really, really good, and you need her. And that's once again not including the counters that heal as well. Now, there's more to this equation, and at this point, it just goes off the charts. She's not going to be paralleled in this one for an extremely long time. Not for a good bit of time do I see this one being paralleled. We've gotten close with Priestess. Priestess did something similar, but not to the same extent. Okay? Her SA is an allies ultra HP heal. That's 100% pretty much HP heal. Okay? So now we're 10 things. 10 things in. 11 things. 40% HP regen for 3 turns. That's 11 things. Now, HP regen is a little different than heal. Basically, that means when she does her SA, bam, everybody's healed up. Everybody's pretty much, for the most part, full health. I forget what the exact number on that is, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7,000, 8,000. It'll be a long time before we see HP numbers that high. And frankly, I've never seen a unit that I can recollect off the top of my head that she didn't fully heal there. So I don't know the actual number, but I would imagine it's insane. Now, the end of that turn, the end of the turn where you attack, she's going to do an HP regen of 40% of your health. So if you take 60% damage, you're back to 80%. At the end of the turn, after that full HP heal. And that's talking like a worst case scenario. Most people take 20, 30% damage, so they're back to full health at the end of the turn. At the end of the turn. Then, 2 turns after that, she's going to keep doing that. Now that's 11 things she does. Here's where it gets really wild. Strength stat, plus 100% for 3 turns. Magic stat, plus 100% for 3 turns. Now, we talked about the buff stack, and so basically the way you need to understand how this works, and this is really, really, really important. It's not like it's going to add 100 to whatever stack you've got. So if you have somebody that gives themselves, let's say for the sake of argument, you have somebody that gives themselves 60% fire, 60% strength, okay? And you have another person that gives themselves 60% magic, 60% water, okay? That fire unit is going to get 60% fire, 100% strength, Okay? They just went up 40% just on their strength stat. And obviously the water unit's going to get 60% water, 60% magic. That is 12 things Old Girl does. We've had units that are close. We've had units that do 80%. We've had units that do 80. I think we have one that does 85, but it's self, I believe. We have units that do similar stuff. We've never had a unit that did 100% at all, self or otherwise. Now, we have one or two recently that do 100% to self. Nobody else does 100% all allies. That is insane. That is broken. That is ridiculous. You're in a lot of situations doubling the amount of power that a unit can put out, maybe even more. It's pretty wild. Now, consider this, okay? You've got units, like we talked about, I believe it was the Leafia earlier, that did plus 70% per magic buff. Now, she gave herself, I think, 60%, I believe is what she gave herself, and we mathed that out. Now, consider with that water unit, she gives now 100% magic. That's 120% magic. Or no, it's 170% magic. I digress. 170% magic stat, but she's also going to get another magic buff because she's going to get 20% off of her assist and another 70% for that magic buff. So you're talking 240, 260 after all the maths are done. It is pretty ridiculous. This adds up quick with you when you have units that do percentage boosts. This is why I say, if you do not have Haruhime, make sure you get at least one, preferably max them a break if you can, but if you can't, get her +3, and then save. Now, once again, do bear in mind we're getting banners next week, and they're going to be all new, and I expect them to be part of this new meta, and I expect them to be pretty ridiculous. A lot of people have asked if this new unit that we're suspecting we're going to get, if she is going to be as broken as Haruhime. And the answer is I doubt it. It's possible, but I doubt it. When Haruhime dropped overnight, Record Buster numbers went through the roof. I remember I was having a hard time hitting, 50 million damage. Now I hit 450 million damage on most of these things because of 100% boosts, because of buff replication, because of penetration rate, counter rate increases, and all that stuff. She does so much in this game and is so broken and so amazing. Basically, if you don't have her, you're almost cheating yourself. And it's high time that we got this unit back. Now, I hear your argument, but you always say when a unit is not time limited, so case in point, this Haruhime is time limited. She's also very good, but you won't be able to catch her from the general pool. You've got to get her when she comes back around, if she ever does. This Haruhime, on the other hand, she is not time limited. She's in the general pool. It wouldn't be the worst thing if you're extremely free to play, if you, once again, are casual and don't grind much. Maybe wait, get her +2, +3, and then wait for the other bonds to drop. Do bear in mind, that's a bad waiting game because, I'm going to be honest here, the general pool is flooded. But, and this is a big but, big old but, I understand if you want to do that. I would not fault you one bit. Do keep in mind, you want this unit to stay alive. So the higher the stats, the more she's going to stay alive, the more she's going to do for you. So you want to keep her alive. You want to make sure that you at minimum have her high enough that she's going to survive events. I'm looking at you, Record Buster. Also, well, let's just say, if you don't have her, chase her on this banner. Just at least get one, if nothing else. You will thank yourself for it, because you can always get Prism Bonds down the road. But you need this unit. If you do not have Foxy Princess Haruhime, anybody does a tier list on these units, she will always be, at least for the time being, number one. And because of mostly that 100% stat, mostly the double turn replication, and how high her debuff is, I don't foresee her getting usurped by a single unit. Now, we might get multiple units that do better things. Case in point, that Ataro that we got, which technically has a better debuff, but it is single target. We've got the Light Haruhime that does 80% light damage. Very useful. Not a replacement for this unit, but very useful. So we might get a unit in the future that does 100% strength buff to all allies, 100% magic buff to all allies. 120% magic buff to all allies. We just don't know. But it is going to be a long time before they give us a unit that does as much debuffing, as much MP buffing, as much health buffing. Well, we actually take it back. We've got a lot of units that do health, so I'm going to take that off the counter. But replication buffing, we might get that, but I doubt it. But we are definitely not getting all of that with the 100% boost. Unless their only goal is to make Haruhime irrelevant, and I really don't feel like they're going to do that. It doesn't seem like it's in the best interest of the game. That is Haruhime. That is why she's so important. And that is why if you do not have her, you need to go out here and you 100% need to summon on this banner. Okay? Mark my words. I rarely tell you guys this. I very, very rarely tell you guys this. I'm 100% adamant on being, the free-to-play friendly guy and the guy that tells you guys to save. But in this rare situation, it's 100% worth. 100% worth just to get even one Haruhime. Though if you, once again, can get 3 or 4 of them, that'd be the best. If you can maximum break her, perfect. But get a single one if you do not have her. You will thank yourself. That's the Haruhime Gush vid. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments section. For now, like, comment, and share. I will catch you all on the next one.